Here we have question 7. Question 7 is all about probability, just from a quick scan of it, but we've got to read this carefully. So it tells us that a dice is thrown 50 times. It tells us that the number shown on the dice is recorded after each throw. The table shows us the results recorded. So the first row of the table tells us the number on the dice, 1 to 6. The next row tells us the frequency, that means how many times that number was thrown out of 50 times, when the dice was thrown 50 times. So the number 1 was thrown 9 times, the number 2 was thrown 7 times, the number 3 was thrown 8 times, 4 was thrown 7 times, 5 was thrown 6 times, and 6 was thrown 13 times. Question A tells us that the relative frequency of throwing a 1 was calculated as 9 over 50, or turn it into a decimal, 0.18, which is the 9 over the 50 throws. So 9 over 50, which turns out calculated to be a decimal of 0.18. What was the relative frequency of throwing a 6? And asks us to give our answer as a decimal. Let's have a look at the table. The relative frequency of throwing a 6 was 13 times. So it was thrown 13 times out of a total of 50 times. So that is the relative frequency, but it does ask us to give our answer as a decimal. So change our fraction into a decimal. So it's 13 divided by 50, which is calculated at 0.26. Plug the numbers into your calculator. Second part, part B, tells us the number 4 was thrown 7 times, and I can see that in my table. The number 4 was thrown 7 times. Using this fact, calculate how many times you would expect a 4 to be thrown when the dice is thrown 3,000 times. So this is simple relative frequency. So a 4 was thrown 7 times, so that's 7 out of 50. Now if we multiply this by 3,000 to give us the relative frequency if 3,000, if it was thrown 3,000 times, plug those numbers into your calculator. 7 divided by 50 multiplied by 3,000 gives us the answer 420. So we would expect it to be thrown 420 times. Final part of the question asks us how many times would you expect the 4 to be thrown when a fair dice is thrown 3,000 times. This requires us to look at the theoretical probability of throwing a particular number on a dice, in our case 4. So the theoretical probability is if 4 would be thrown 1 out of 6 times. 1 out of 6. If we scale this up and multiply it by 3,000 times, 3,000, the theoretical probability of throwing a 4, throwing a 4 if the dice was thrown 3,000 times is 500, which is 1 divided by 6 multiplied by 3,000. And that's the end of our question, which is a nice 5 marks.